Hey, welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and this month I've been looking at small indie authors who are writing great books that deserve wider recognition. This is to celebrate the release of my own indie books, The Immortal Investigations, coming to Kickstarter on the 30th of September. Yes, in just a few short days. Now, today's video is going to be a bit different. Normally I focus on one author and one series, but today I'm looking at 3 standalone novels by 3 completely different authors. These are relatively new authors who have only just started and they're writing their very first books, but they're already doing a pretty good job. And by an amazing coincidence, all 3 novels are pretty different to each other, so hopefully at least one of these will stand out to you. I'm going to pitch all 3, you can tell me which one sounds like your favorite, and my goal is to convince you to try to read at least one of them. We are looking at Draconis by Ryan Knight, a military science fiction. The Witch of Ellesmere by Kirsty Innick, a young adult classic fantasy. And Chasing Luck by Ovanes Galstiane, an absurdist fantasy comedy. Now, before we get truly started, I want to answer the burning question some of you might be wondering, where did this all come from? Why am I doing this? Well, let me give you a bit of context about the world of Booktube. I've been working on the Book Guide channel for a year and a half now. Ever since my first month as a booktuber, I have been getting indie authors pitching me their books. It's very common for booktubers. I've probably had about 40 indie author pitches, although I have well and truly lost count of the exact number. For the record, I say yes to about half of them, and at the very least, I sample a good chunk of their books. So today's video is the culmination of a lot of emailing and reading and book sampling. I've probably done more background research on this video than any other video I've ever done, except maybe Malazan. But I can hear you asking, Book Guy, if you've read so many indie books, why are you only mentioning 3? Well, part of that is my fault. There are plenty of indie books I just haven't got to yet. In fact, that particular stack up there is my indie stack of physical books waiting for me to get to them, and there's even more on my Kindle. But as for the rest, well, a lot of indie books are rough. It's true. And there are several common mistakes made by many new authors. Some books get published without the writer ever taking any sort of writing course or practicing a couple of stories first. Remember, your first book is always your worst book, every time. Some indie books are rushed to publication before they've gone through proper editing process or beta readers, for example. Other books are not bad, they're just mediocre. And others are trying so hard to be original and genre-defying that they end up just really frickin' weird. But that's all something I'll talk about another day. For now, I just want you to know that these 3 books had to be pretty damn good to stand out. Impressive! But there's a bigger issue at play here. A lot of booktubers ignore these types of requests. This is something that unfortunately I have heard time and time again. I would say yes to an indie author, and they would write back, "Oh my god, thank you, Book Guy," because no one else even replied. Which kinda sucks. But that said, I did hear some really good things about the booktubers Mike's Book Reviews and Patrick Leo. These 2 are genuinely putting in the effort to read indie books, so shout out to those guys, and they are amazing, and I recommend following them if you don't already. And I'm sure there may be other YouTubers who are doing this as well, but those are 2 I can vouch for. So why don't booktubers talk about indie books? Quite simply, because of clickbait. People click on videos when they recognize the title. Even on my channel, my most popular videos are not necessarily my best videos, they're the videos with the most recognizable books. My top 4 videos are Game of Thrones, Malazan, Throne of Glass, and The Witcher. And they're all household names. Again, except for Malazan. And not to brag, but my old Lord of the Rings video just randomly got a whole bunch of views this month because Rings of Power Season 2 just came out. So clickbait and trends aren't just vague words that people use to sound important. They are a daily reality for booktubers. So that's the context for today's video. There are talented indie authors who are struggling to get recognized because the industry is very much a popularity contest. And even I'm not perfect here. Before you all think I'm some sort of maverick who breaks all the rules,
he's too awesome and attractive.
I'm only talking about indie books because it's on theme for my own book launch this month. It's kind of self-promotion, and I waited until I was big enough as a booktuber to have a loyal following. But this is something I would like to see change, and it's not going to change all at once. It's going to take a little bit of effort from everyone across the board, otherwise good books that are precious works of art are going to be forgotten. I would like to see more booktubers talk about indie books. Going forward, I'm going to try to do a video like this every time. I have 3 more indie books that I'm ready to vouch for. But indie authors still need to be responsible for their own success. If you're an indie author, you need to make sure you've written the best possible manuscript. You've hired a real editor, hired a real cover designer, and done the hard yards of marketing your own book. Actually invest time, effort, and money if you want to succeed. Talent alone is not enough. And you, as readers, would benefit from deliberately going searching for good indie books every once in a while. You might be surprised what you would find. Well, that's enough about all that. Let's actually talk about these books, starting with Draconis. 600 years in the future, humanity has spread out into the stars. Powerful corporations now control everything with their super advanced technology. Yet these corporations are concerned by the rise of a new cult leader. River Crowley has set up the Leamonde cult. He is considered a folk hero by the poorer outer colonies because he challenges the status quo and is working to build a supposed utopia. And he's gaining so much power that he threatens to shift the balance of the universe. And that's when Earth sends in our protagonist, Adam Ikari Wright, the best of the best special forces operative, to hunt down and kill this dangerous cult leader. Adam is the perfect soldier, ruthless, efficient, but also clever enough to strategize and outthink his enemies. Except he may have just met his match. Both Adam and Crowley have to put together a team of humanity's brightest minds, most skilled individuals, capable of utilizing the most advanced sciences and technologies known to mankind. 2 teams will clash, with the fate of all at stake. Now, the unique part of Draconis is its structure. It is a novel, but it's split into 6 parts that are very much like standalone episodes. You should really think of this book as like one season of television, with 6 episodes that are all linked by a greater season plotline. This is perfect for fans of Star Trek, Stargate, and Doctor Who, shows where you have standalone episodes with overarching season plots. Each part of this book is set in a new location and explores a new science fiction concept, where anything is possible. But I really want to emphasize this is not a collection of short stories. This really is one big cohesive story. That said, out of our 3 novels today, Draconis really is the most experimental. So some of these 6 parts of the story deal with military challenges and strategies, others with robots and AI, and others with eldritch space horror. And others have dinosaurs, because why not? So it's a little bit of everything. I loved the horror part in particular. That was my favorite. Whereas the military parts, they have 10 out of 10 action scenes that were just chef's kiss. One interesting thing, our characters have to journey a great distance across space, and they spend a lot of time in hypersleep. So every time they wake up between parts, there are messages waiting for them, interstellar style, about all the events that have transpired elsewhere in the universe. There is a wider war brewing, and we see this subplot evolving in the background. It's quite fascinating, although frankly it's also a bit frustrating because we never see it, and it sounds really cool. But it is a great way to show that this primary journey has wider consequences for the whole universe, and it keeps all 6 of these parts focused on one big goal. The reason why there is all this journeying across space is because our characters are looking for Draconis. There is a real-world scientific theory that Earth was once colonized from another planet, except we lost contact and became separate, and that the true origin planet of humanity is somewhere out in space. Now, that might be a more creative theory, you know, like Bigfoot and Loch Ness sort of thing, but that is part of the concept of this book. The cult leader, River Crowley, is trying to create a paradise, and to do so, he's looking for heaven, or Draconis, the origin planet. But this is a major feature of the whole book. There is so much hard science. Everything in here has been grounded in current scientific theory. It reminded me of reading The Martian, which was so well researched. Seriously, my biggest takeaway from reading this novel was that I loved how much science was in the science fiction. Draconis has so many fields of study explored, and there was so much variety, from AI and robots to space travel, even humans' cognitive capacity. It was genuinely fascinating and, dare I say, boundary pushing for the genre. I should mention there's more than just science at work here. There is a ton of philosophy and sociology, the study of the human condition. These are big themes discussed about the meaning of life and how to build a utopia society. I was impressed by how well the author understood these issues, and I actually felt like I learnt a lot from reading the book.
And between you and me, that is saying something.
That said, the same strength could also be a weakness. We constantly see more sci-fi concepts being introduced, even in the ending sequence. There were times where it became very distracting. It sort of breaks Sanderson's third law of magic, where he says expand on what you know before you introduce something new. Draconis introduces a lot of new stuff. It's all good on its own, but on a whole, it can be a lot. Also, some of those sci-fi concepts are almost too wild. I would say especially part 4, Fate, was pretty weird. In a fun, entertaining way, yes, but if you experiment too much in sci-fi, it starts to become unbelievable. For example, if a Jedi moves something with their mind, it may be fiction, but it's believable. A Jedi survives the vacuum of space and flies. Unbelievable. You've got to find a balance with sci-fi concepts to keep it realistic, and Draconis kind of skirts the edges of that a couple of times. There's quite a few characters to keep track of. We have Adam's Special Forces team and Crowley's more scientific team. I genuinely felt like I remembered and could track every single one of them, which was very impressive. There were a few times a few characters blurred together, but never for long. We have unique skills, personality traits, appearances, everything. The book juggles a big cast very well. And I'll mention it here, this book has incredible artwork all the way throughout, from chapter headings to character profiles, pictures of the planets and the sceneries. It's incredible. Its artwork is especially helpful with the characters by showing how they look and helping to distinguish them in our minds. It's all done in the art style that we see on the cover, and it pops up pretty consistently throughout the book. In fact, there's a whole website just for it, which I'll talk about in a second. The rivalry between Adam and Crowley is quite fascinating. The author described this to me in email, and honestly, I couldn't describe it any better. He said Adam is a good person working for bad people towards bad ends, and Crowley is a bad person working with good people towards a good end. So the question is, who should win? It was a very clever piece of blurred moral lines. There is one frustration I have with this area though. The moral ambiguity of our protagonist and antagonist felt somewhat unresolved. Now, I am avoiding spoilers here, so all I'm going to say is I felt like the potential of the moral ambiguity wasn't explored enough. I hate to talk about weaknesses because I'm trying to promote some indie books, but all 3 of these books today will have some weaknesses, and I have to be fair in pointing them out. Draconis has a few. For one, our main characters get rescued a fair bit. Now, it's okay for your heroes to be rescued by someone else occasionally, but if it happens more than once, well then your heroes start looking incompetent, and it can take the tension out of a situation. Another weakness, I touched on this earlier, there's probably too many cool sci-fi concepts. They're all cool and interesting, but together it's quite a lot. There's some really good character work, but I felt like there wasn't enough character resolutions. There was so much effort put into making sure that every character stood out in a good way, so I was disappointed when we didn't get deeper character work after that. I wanted more character arcs. And one final weakness was the ending, and I don't want to spoil it, but on one hand, there is a big external threat of conflict, and on the other hand, there is the internal issues of big themes and moral questions. By the end, I feel like the internal issues weren't resolved enough. It felt like the deeper themes were neglected in favor of big action sequences with gunfights and explosions. Now, to be fair, they were great gunfights and explosions, and the primary conflict is wrapped up, but the story set up a lot of deeper meaning that I felt wasn't resolved in a satisfying way at the end. When I finished reading Draconis, I found myself thinking about it constantly. I've never read a novel quite like this, and for weeks afterwards, I couldn't get the damn thing out of my head. There was so much to unpack. Some of it was brilliant, some of it was weird, and some, yes, was frustrating, but overall, I just found it so compelling. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the novel does have a companion website. Episode descriptions and character summaries can be found on draconisnovel.com. The site also features character playlists and playlists inspired for each of the episodes. There's a ton of art everywhere, and it is so cool. Ryan Knight has done a great job of including art and descriptions to accompany the story. So that's all on this book. If you like the sound of Draconis, you should check it out. There is a link in the description to where you can purchase that book. Now, let's look at our second indie standalone. Braylin has lived a sheltered life, studying as a young witch with her mother and her friendly safe coven. Braylin has just turned 17, which is an important day for young witches. It's the day they find out what type of magic they possess. Braylin gathers amongst her coven and performs the test, only to discover that she has the rarest magic of all, not seen in 100 years. And it has caught the eye of King Elias the Cruel, ruler of Ellesmere. It's revealed that Braylin's sheltered life is because of King Ellis's rise to power. His brutal conquest and suppression of all magic led to Braylin's mother and coven fleeing the magical realm of Ellesmere and living in exile. Yet Braylin's new magic is like a beacon to the evil king. It's only a matter of time until he finds her and either steals her magic for himself or utterly destroys everything she loves. So Braylin must return to the home country she has never known, discover new allies, and embrace her new magic if she is to stand against the evil king. Now, I actually met the author Kirsty in person in Sydney, Australia at a literary festival called Book Fair Australia. I mention this because Book Fair is coming to Sydney again in November, and I'll be there in person acting as MC, hosting author interviews and panel discussions. If you're in Sydney, you should come to the festival and say hi to me and find new indie authors to check out. But anyway, I found Kirsty because I was looking for an editor, and Kirsty actually edited my first 2 upcoming books. She's an amazing editor. As I told her, she hurt my feelings just the right amount.
Thanks, everybody. I love you all.
But after I realized how good she was at editing, I had to try out her book, and it did not disappoint. Though, can I just say, I am recommending her book. Honestly, there's not like a recommendation in exchange for editing. There was none of that. This is a genuine recommendation, okay? Kirsty's writing is top quality. I was genuinely amazed by this. I knew it was a young adult novel, and it's written in first-person mode from the point of view of a young protagonist, which is pretty cliche. And let's face it, YA has a reputation for sometimes being low-quality writing with cringy dialogue, etc. I don't think that's a fair reputation, and I have defended YA in the past, but The Witch of Ellesmere proves beyond a doubt that a book can be YA and still be incredibly well written. Kirsty's writing style actually reminds me a lot of Tolkien. People forget just how beautiful Tolkien's writing was. In both cases, the command of language is absolute. The words bring this world to life. Ellesmere is a crystal clear picture in my mind because of the stunning visual nature of the writing. That said, also like Tolkien, Kirsty did have a tendency to perhaps over-explain. Whenever we see a new setting, it's described in beautiful, extensive detail, and there were times I felt like there were more pressing matters in the story, and the level of detail was slowing things down a little bit, but still, amazing prose. Now, the plot lines are pretty trope-heavy, as you would often find in a young adult novel. Out of the 3 novels today, I'd find that The Witch of Ellesmere is probably the least experimental. It will feel familiar, which actually means it's perfect if you're looking for a comfortable read. So Braylin travels to Ellesmere and meets new friends. She hides her true identity and her power as she attempts to discover what really caused the evil king's rise to power. There are magical mysteries and a secret past. Plus, everyone she meets has their own secrets, so there's plenty of mystery in this story. That said, Braylin does happen to meet 2 handsome young boys, and each seem very interested in her. I know. The nice thing, though, is that our 2 supporting male characters, Theo and Julian, are actually interesting. They're not just dreamy, hot guys. They are real characters. They have secrets and history and unique personalities. Still, there is a lot of time spent on what I might just call teenage drama. Ellesmere is a beautiful fantasy world, but it's also a pretty standard fantasy world. That's why I said this book is the least experimental of the 3 today. It sort of plays it safe in the realms of plot and world building, and instead focuses on just doing it really well. It takes an old concept and breathes fresh life into it. The world of Ellesmere is very magic focused. Everyone is either a witch, wizard, or elf of some kind. There's a bunch of unique fairy creatures and the occasional monster. This world feels magical, full of wonder and beauty. Very much a soft magic system, though of course there is a clear taint of King Elias and his corruption. In terms of character work, I do have slightly mixed feelings about this book. There is a huge amount of effort spent in making sure every character is unique in multiple ways. Our 2 supporting leads, Theo and Julian, both have character arcs and many layers to their personalities. Even the minor characters all have some sort of defining quirk to help them stand out, so all side characters were really well done. My only disappointment is that the main character was the least interesting. Braylon herself doesn't really have much to set her apart from any other lead character in a YA novel. She is always morally good, she's unsure of herself and she has to find the strength within, so a bit standard. In terms of weaknesses, there really aren't that many in this book. It's such a well-written book. There are only two complaints I think people will have. One is that the story is quite trope-heavy, as you would expect from a young adult novel, and the other is that the main character is a bit generic. So if you're not a fan of those two things, the book may not be for you. But if you love classic fantasy stories and YA adventures, then you'll rarely find anything this good. Something I should mention too, technically, The Witch of Ellesmere is not a standalone. A second book in the series actually came out late last year, The King of the Ironwood, and sadly I have not read it yet. I know, I call myself the book guy, and I haven't read every book in existence.
You trusted me, and I failed you.
But I flagged this because the Ellesmere series is continuing, and if you love book 1, you can go straight into book 2 and expect more things to come soon after. I'm still talking about book 1 today in a standalone video because it works as a standalone. If you like the sound of this book, you can find the link in my description to Kirsty Innick's website where you can grab your copy. Now, on to the third and final book of the day. Before the universe began, there were 8 rules that governed everything. Creation and death, truth and lie, time and space, certainty and luck. These 8 beings are a family, one big dysfunctional family of concepts. Until the day that Luck loses his powers and becomes, for all intents and purposes, human. Luck has no idea how he lost his powers and what this might mean for the cosmos on a whole. So Luck turns to his hapless human roommate Charlie for help. Charlie is reluctantly pulled into this world of gods and concepts and begins an epic quest to help Luck recover his power. Little do they know they are in for a bunch of surprises. Look, I want to address this up front. I don't think Chasing Luck has the best cover. This sometimes happens in the world of indie books where the cover doesn't really complement the story as well as it should, but don't let that put you off. The author Ovanas pitched this novel to me, saying that it was inspired by Discworld and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and having read it, I 100% agree. It's exactly that kind of story. It's why I'm wearing my Discworld shirt, because I'm a huge Discworld fan and this book massively appealed to me. This story is full of humor and bizarre settings and absurdist fantasy, but also tackles the big themes of life, death, and the universe itself, just like Pratchett and Adams. Now, most of this plot is a epic quest storyline, moving from one comedic set piece to another. Now, I will admit some of these pieces were funnier than others, and after a few of them in a row, I was beginning to wonder where the story was going. But the real surprise for me was the third act of this book. Avoiding spoilers, but there are a few big plot twists and surprises. I realized a lot of the things that seemed random in the middle of the book were actually by design. It was a risky move by the author, because many people don't read to the end of indie books. But I'll vouch for it, and I will say the ending was worth it. I will say too, there were multiple surprises in the story, but some were more comedy surprises. You know how in Hitchhikers, they're trying to find the meaning of life, but then the answer is 42? Yeah, well, there are some good surprises in this book, and then there are some silly surprises too that you just kind of meant to laugh at. This is a story about exploring the cosmos, so literally anything is possible. We have dragons, fantasy realm, and space travel, and a convention for evil dictators. It's a little bit of everything. Now, because the creativity on this one is sort of dialed up to 1,000,000, I'm gonna leave most of the world building unsaid and just let you explore for yourself, because that is half the fun of this book, knowing that anything could happen next. Now, some of you will love these characters and some of you might hate them. I'll just be honest about that. The main character, Luck, is a bit of an arrogant dickbag. But that's also the point. Luck is basically that guy who was born rich and handsome and has had life handed to him on a platter and expects everyone to be as happy and carefree as him. Because for Luck, that has been his life. He's the luckiest guy ever. Everyone loves him and thinks he's amazing. So his character arc is learning a bit of humility, but he can be a bit much at times. The main character, Charlie, is quite curious. He's a lot like Arthur Dent in Hitchhikers, in that he is your average man. He's the most normal guy in the story filled with freaks and weirdos. But again, that's kind of the point too. He may not be the most interesting character by design. As for the other concept characters like creation and death, you'll find that they are a lot like Death from Discworld. They personify the ideal that they stand for. The author has a lot of fun with experimenting on what these concepts would be like as people. They can be a bit cartoonish, but they're a lot of fun. Now, as much as I enjoyed this book, there are a couple of weak areas too. Is probably the messiest of the three we're discussing today. Being fully honest here, after I read this book, I actually messaged the author and suggested a bit more editing and polishing was needed. A couple of scenes don't work as well as others and needed tweaking to get up to the other standard. Now, I'm still happy to endorse this book because I had a great time reading it, and the author has a lot of natural talent, but I would like to see that talent paired up with tighter writing in his future works. This book is often very funny. It was my favorite part of the story, but there are often long periods without jokes. If you ever watch a comedy TV show, you'll find that there has to be a joke every 15 to 20 seconds minimum. Same thing goes for comedy books. You'll find Discworld books always had like one joke at least per page, except when it got suddenly serious, as Discworld does. So there were periods of this book where the humor was just simply absent. The two main characters of Luck and Charlie were not bad but could be improved. Luck is sometimes too annoying and Charlie is sometimes too passive, which is the same problem Arthur Dent has in Hitchhikers, if we're being honest. Also, the book starts really well and it finishes very strong, but the middle was less interesting, and honestly I nearly stopped reading it a few times. If I had known the ending was strong, I would have been more eager to continue, but that's the benefit of book reviews, and indie books don't always have book reviews, but we'll get to that later. Finally, I hate to say this, but there were two comedy sections in the book that didn't quite work and I feel the need to flag them. One is a suicidal guy on a bridge. It's meant to be a section of very dark humor, but it was a bit awkward, hey? And the concept character, Space, is morbidly obese. Now, it does make sense for the character that is the size of the entire universe to be very large, and I don't think it's overtly offensive, but just again, it was a little awkward. There are a lot of good things about this book, and a very cool concept that is explored well. There's a fun dynamic between Luck and Charlie, and the final plot twist and the whole third act of the book were very satisfying. The author is planning to write 2 more books in the same universe, focusing on other members of this cosmic family. I'm excited to see where this series goes.
We will watch your career with great interest.
Now, this author doesn't have a website yet where you can buy from them directly. You can buy this book off Amazon, and I encourage you to do so and support an indie author. I'll put the link to that in the description. Alright, so those are your 3 options for today. Now again, I have read a lot of indie books to settle on these 3, so I am quite happy to vouch for them. Let me know in the comments which one sounds like your favorite, and tell me why. I'd be very interested to see how these rank against each other. I hope you'll take the plunge and give one of these a try. And remember, if you do read one of these books, go and write a review.
Even if you don't like it, say something nice, okay?
Well, good luck, my friends, and happy reading. Thank you for watching a video on indie books. Now remember, this whole monthly theme of Indie September has been to celebrate my own books, The Immortal Investigations, coming to Kickstarter from the 30th of September to the 1st of November 2024. You can see the link to the Kickstarter below. I hope you'll support my books on the day of launch. I've made 3 other videos for indie books this month, so check them out if you haven't already. I hope this monthly theme has given you a greater appreciation for the talent and quality of works that exist outside of traditional publishing, and encourage you to take the plunge on indie books. But that's all from me. I'm the Book Guy. I'll see you next time, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!